Hey everyone, what's going on? Pocket Moggers here. Today I wanted to do a video about the Budokai franchise. Dragon Ball Z Budokai was one of my favorite fighting game series as a kid. I loved them to death. Played them several times over. Uh, one and three a little more than two, but I did play them all quite a bit. And I played a little bit of Shin Budokai Another Road recently because I found my old PSP, and it just kind of gave me a bit of a desire to, talk about the franchise and see if, I could come up with a good idea for a new Budokai game and, see if anybody else is receptive towards that idea. So before we talk about the future of the series, I'd like to go back and talk about its roots for a little bit. The classic Budokai games, and just give a little bit of my thoughts on them. See if anybody else has any sorts of feelings one way or the other about them, and what they might feel about them too. So let's start with Budokai 1, obviously. This game I heard over in Japan was just called Dragon Ball Z. Like they didn't even bother giving it any sort of title to distinguish it from its anime. Like this is the Dragon Ball Z game, right? And it's honestly well deserved. I mean, it's certainly archaic by today's standards. I don't think anybody who's like big into fighting games from 2026 is gonna go play the Budokai games and go, oh my god, this is transformative. It's not like going back and playing Street Fighter Third Strike or if you're a big Smash Brothers fan, like going back and playing Melee would be. It's just a fun little thing for the time. For the time, it was absolutely insane. It had all of the stuff that we, the American fan base, had already seen. They cut it off at the Cell arc, I guess, to sell it internationally. Smart thinking. But they did throw in Great Saiyaman to give us a little bit of a hint towards the future too, which that was pretty cool. I had a lot of fun and fond memories playing this game. The Cell getting absorbed by Krillin story mode and Mr. Satan having to fight everybody was a lot of fun. What did you guys think? Did you enjoy this one? Okay, so here we are with the black sheep of the family, at least for the mainline games. Budokai 2 gets a lot of flack for its board game element. Its presentation on its adventure mode is, well, it's just not fun, frankly, and it's time consuming, and there are objectives that you just can't complete, and that's frustrating too. It's just missing a lot. The presentation isn't particularly great either. Uh, I think that really turned people off, especially since it's the only way that you can unlock a lot of the characters and moves and things along those lines. It also just, I mean, it's just a really, frankly, a weird adaptation of the events. You get a Majin Frieza and a Majin Cell. That's cool. We'll get a little more into those things in a minute here. But like you fight the Ginyu Force at Muscle Tower, right? All the way back from Dragon Ball, just out in the cold for no reason. Sorry, my cat is begging me for some food. There you go, Leo. Um, and you I don't know. There's a lot of time wasting going on, and the starter characters that you get to help you. Obviously, you get Goku, and you get people like Krillin, but like Goten and Trunks can fight Raditz. Like it's a very bizarre version of it, and that's kind of to its favor, given how bad the presentation is and the gameplay of the story mode is. The fact that it's weird and adds a bunch of stuff does really help it out. Um, which, speaking of, was one of the big things about the game. The game had some QOL improvements over the main, like the first one. Sorry, not the main one, over the first one, with you being able to just press side and energy to do your special attacks. That was nice. New moves, new transformations. We got through the Boo arc this time around. That was pretty cool. They had some what if fusions like Mr. Satan and Goku, and like I said, Tien and Yamcha. Boo could absorb Vegeta and Frieza and Cell, and Yamcha and Tien. If you were over in Japan, there was a special version of the game where Frieza had skins that turned him into Cooler and into Kuriza, his child from Neko Majin Z, for anybody who knows what that is. And all of that stuff was actually really, really, really cool. It really did give the game a personality, but they took that stuff away in the third game, and that stuff is why you play Budokai 2. If you want to see that stuff, that's what you're there for. If not, please just play one of the other ones. So Budokai 3 was the GOAT of the series. It it carried out to the end of Z. We got the Goku versus Oob fight as like the actual end to the main story. Like everything's covered, but they threw in Omega Shenron and the Super Saiyan 4s as a little bit of GT content. The big focus, though, was the movies. We got Cooler as an actual unique character and Meta Cooler. We got Broly. They actually started focusing on the extra content in this game, and that gave it a lot of fresh air. Oh, Bardock was added too, a lot of cool stuff like that. And then on top of all of the new stuff that was added to the game, there was a completely new mode, this Dragon Universe mode, where you could pick one of a handful of characters that were important to the story, and you got to act out, what they did in said story. But there were just crazy numbers of potentials to spin off into what if stories, to go fight Broly in the Buu saga as several of the characters, to fight Cooler on Namek. Anybody in Sparking Zero who remembers Vegeta going Super Saiyan to fight Goku, that's in Budokai 3 as well. He kills Frieza, and then you have to fight evil Super Saiyan Vegeta. It's really, really awesome. I like that better than the Cooler stuff, even though the Cooler stuff is cool. The characters that were chosen for the Dragon Universe, most of them made sense, but then there's Broly, who just gets to fight everybody. I mean, he's kind of one of the hooks of the game, so I get it. But you get to go fight everybody, and then you die to go on. And there's a what if that you can do where you beat Goku and destroy everybody. But that's the what if version, So that one's strange. Oob gets one. I think it's cool. Oob is a character that I might do a video on in and of himself, because Oob is so neglected, so completely and totally wasted. The human characters need a champion in Dragon Ball that can actually do stuff, and Oob is right there to be that character. And I really hope that they get on that at some point. But yeah, the Dragon Universe stuff was a little strange sometimes, but in general, good. Future Trunks not having one just makes no sense. They cut it. I don't understand that. Why did Yamcha and Tien get one for Z? But like OG Dragon Ball, I get, but Z? And then Trunks just doesn't. Okay. Yeah, but again, there's so much fun stuff. I don't want to spoil anything, because if you all haven't played the game, I want you to play it, especially if you're a Dragon Ball fan. You really will enjoy all of the ultimate stories that you get. But on top of that, I mean, you get to fly around the world and explore different places. You can find techniques for characters. You can find just weird conversations that are going on with people. I think it's Goku's story mode. I don't remember whose it is, but in one of the character story modes, Yajirobe just keeps showing up for no reason, like even to events that he's not a part of. He's just there, and they just do fun stuff like that. I wish modern Dragon Ball game story modes were like this one. Uh, on top of it, they added a like a it's like a PvP mode, or I mean a PvE mode that you could then turn into a PvP mode where you send information over to other people via passwords. But like you could level up the Dragon Universe stuff that you gathered. You could use it in a different mode, and you could do the same thing to characters who don't have Dragon Universe's profiles, like Frieza, Cell, Kid Buu. You could level them up and make them stronger as well. It was just really incredible. Plus, I mean the changes to the combat were just wild, right? The dodging with the X button, the teleport counters, the I don't remember what they called it, but like the heat system where you use to unlock your ultimate attacks. I wasn't as big of a fan of the rock paper scissors game for rushing. Doesn't seem like skill very much. That part was a little too random for my taste, but I did like the end result. I thought it was cool that certain characters like Piccolo and Vegeta and even Frieza would have beatdowns that would then end with signature techniques. That was really nice. Um, but again, just overall, it's fantastic. You know, some of the stuff is a little convoluted. I will say you should look up a guide for some of the later stuff that you have to get, especially if you're looking to get Cell Jr. and Cybermen. They are weird unlock characters in that mode I was talking about. That you don't get them from the story or anything like that. But I definitely recommend playing it. If you do play it, play the PlayStation 2 version. I can't recommend the music from the game because the music from the game is well, let's say heavily inspired by music from other people, from really famous other people, right? To the point that some lawsuits happened. So I can't recommend it, but what I can say is the songs that they are based on are really good songs. So there you go. But I really like this game, and it's probably a guilty pleasure situation because it's not very inspired, and a kind of a worse version of the third game. But Infinite World was a late PS2 Budokai game, and it covered a lot of the stuff that wasn't covered in three. It was like three plus, but it also removed some stuff. It's hard to call it a Budokai 4 because I wouldn't say that there was enough there to consider it a Budokai 4. But or enough there that's new. A lot of it is recycled, right? I mean, like just directly ripped from the other game, which is a big minus for this game. And I think why this game is so critically savaged, because I think those people played up to a certain point and just saw all of the recycled Budokai 3 elements and went, wow, really? This sucks. And I don't blame them. But if they had played more, or hypothetically, if they had played more, rather, um, they would have seen that there was additional stuff. Does that make up for it? Well, that's a personal taste thing. For me, because I'm just addicted to this crap, yeah, it does. But for most people, I'm not gonna recommend this one over three. I think you should play three instead. But if you're a fan of more of the movie stuff, GT, hang on one second, my cat's going to bug my dog. Hey, leave him alone. Good boy, thanks. I'm gonna hold or my cat for a little bit here. My dog. I'm gonna hold my cat here for a little bit so he gets some loving and doesn't feel encouraged to go bother my dog while he's sleeping. Yeah, if you're a fan of the movies or GT or just more stuff. You know what I mean? If you just wanted a little more than 3 had to offer, then you'll probably like Infinite World. I won't say you'll love it though. We'll get into it in a second, but you'll probably like it still. They added, you know, filler canon characters and movie characters and more GT elements, like PyCon was added, and Janemba and Baby and Super 17, and they added a GT Goku and a GT Vegeta, which is nice. But I don't think it's certainly anything that makes or breaks an experience, you know. Um, Even though, again, I did enjoy playing this game. Um, but what people won't like, I feel, and I agree with them, is while the Budokai 3 assets are brought over from the other game, the new characters in Infinite World, they didn't bother to use the same system for them. So let me explain. In Budokai 3, you have to enter an altered state. I brought it up in the Budokai 3 panel. And then you are able, if you have enough ki, to execute your ultimate attack, at which point you have to play a game where you charge a meter and the opponent charges a meter, and if you charged the meter higher than they did, you execute the full attack. But if you didn't, they're able to block and receive less damage. Okay. They did not bother to add that mechanic to most of the Infinite World characters' super attacks. So their attacks just work. And if you're playing as a character from earlier in the series, oh, well, tough luck. You might not be able to do what I was able to do. Also, because most of these characters are late Z, late GT characters, they do more damage. Right? So it's not just, hey, you and I, or you don't have to fight to make your attack work, and I do. It's also, I'm doing more damage as well as always firing my attack, right? So it's really not fair. It's frankly lazy, you know. How hard is it to just implement that stuff? You see, that's another part of why I say this isn't Budokai 4. This is just rush it out before PlayStation 2 is no longer relevant. And we can't make Budokai 4. So, yeah, I can't recommend it more than Budokai 3. I still had more fun than Budokai 2. It does, however, have superfluous and frustrating mini games in common with Budokai 2. A lot of the board maps has pointless, like, rhythm-based games, or walk around and collect Dragon Balls, or jump over this hurdle, you know, stuff that it's like, ah, yes, Superman 64, my favorite, right? So yeah, it's not as good as Budokai 3. I liked it better than 2, but it's not as good as 1 either. Even though, again, I enjoyed it simply because it had more characters to it. GT Vegeta was basically in nothing at that point, so it was fun to have GT Vegeta in a game that I could actually use. They have one of the endings for the game is the two of them fighting each other in a tournament in GT, and it's a lot of fun. But again, I can't recommend it. So the next one that came out was Burst Limit. It was on Xbox 360. I don't know if it had a PS3 release. I'm pretty sure it did. Um, Yeah, it's good, honestly. This is more of a Budokai 4 than Infinite World was. A lot of updating the visuals, a lot of better models, you know, a lot of better presentation. The levels are unique. They add cool stuff like being able to knock your opponent up into the atmosphere and follow them up into the atmosphere, or knock them down into the sky. You know, just like in Budokai 3, you can destroy environments. There's a lot of cool stuff to it. There's a lot more dialogue going on with the characters while they're facing each other. That's nice too. Um, they develop shots for each character when moves hit them and or are being used by them against people that have really cool presentation, like the show itself. Really match the show's spirit and energy. But there's a lot of issues with this title that really hold it back. Also, again, um, like Infinite World, this game can't be called a Budokai 4. And the reason it can't is it doesn't continue things. We go back again. We go all the way back to the very first Budokai game. We're in the Xbox 360 era. Z and GT have been done for quite a while now. Battle of Gods would, I assume, have started production at this point, but it wouldn't be known to people, right? So there's not a lot going on in Dragon Ball, but there is a cohesive story, and this is like, this doesn't even do original Dragon Ball. It's just like 3 of 4 arcs for Z, right? So it's 70%, 75% of 1/3 of the story. It's nothing. And it's kind of ridiculous at this point. People don't really want a game just about the Cell arc anymore. There's so much more to cover, especially when you're selling a new title. I think this was relatively close to the release of the 360, right? So this would have been new title, new hardware, a team that has done games that cover more for the franchise too. So a lot would have been expected of them when it came out, and it didn't really meet that, unfortunately. Broly and Bardock are here too. Bardock makes more sense than Broly does, given we do go through the Sand and Frieza arc. But Broly's here to be Broly and, help the sales, which he does. There's a fun story mode with him that just abruptly ends, though, and that's really frustrating. I don't know. The game is much better than Infinite World. I would put it above Budokai 2 as well. This would be number 2 to Budokai 3. And Budokai 1, I put it above Budokai 1 as well. This would be number 2 to Budokai 3 right now. But again, it's just, it's half-baked. They didn't get to finish it. And even what they have that they're selling as the finished game isn't presented in a way that feels finished. Despite how fun it is. So that really hurt the franchise in terms of its sales and the titles and things. So well, I guess it hurt the the game section of the franchise in terms of those sales. So they never did another main console title after this point. At least for the Budokai series. The same team, their name is Dimps. They do a lot of good stuff. They did Sonic Advanced for those Sonic fans who love Sonic. Sonic Advance is a good game. They are now in charge of doing stuff with the Xenoverse series and have a lot of success with that, which I'll get into that a little bit more in a second here, but we've got some handhelds to talk about that they did that are actually pretty good, so I'm excited to get to those. So DBZ Shin Budokai was a PSP game. It was just basically them trying to sell more. There's more to it than this. I'm oversimplifying it, but I'm trying to for the sake of brevity because I've already rambled on as it is. It's an oversimplified portable Budokai 3, right? They're trying to sell the story of DBZ. They added some stuff to it as well, but it's mostly just DBZ again. You get PyCon, you get Janemba, you get a couple of other characters. Super Saiyan 4 Goku is added, no Vegeta, but Super Saiyan 4 Goku, it's it's a fun game. It's very simple when compared to the base Budokai 3 over on the PlayStation 2. Even it's much more simplified, but it is enjoyable. The presentation is very good for a PSP game. I mean, you can't, you know. Uh, I'll always remember with its sequel, which we'll talk about in just a second, when future Gohan does his little pose and he looks up, I'm just like, what is your face, man? I don't know what you're feeling right now, but like, that's just me being nitpicky because overall, I mean, for the time on what it's on, it's great, and honestly, it's a lot of fun. I didn't have many friends with PSPs around, and I definitely didn't have any that had Dragon Ball games, so I didn't get to use any of the wireless features to try to play against anybody else. But the single player experience was good. It was a good way to practice. Because I would go do Budokai tournaments at people's houses and stuff. It was a good way to practice for those before that happened. But yeah, it's pretty good. I would say below Budokai um, uh, burst limit. Excuse me, brain farted there. Below burst limit, but above Budokai 1. Along with Shin Budokai, we get Shin Budokai Another Road, which is the second Shin Budokai game, and continues the Dragon Ball lineage of unnecessarily stupid and long titles in your games. Shin Budokai Another Road is Future Trunks' version of the Majin Buu saga before Dragon Ball Super did Future Trunks' version of the Majin Buu saga. I do have to say, I enjoy the Super adaptation of it better because Trunks doesn't just let people do stuff. You know what I mean? He kills them. Like his friends and his family are all dead because of bad people just doing whatever they want, right? That's not the game he plays, right? So I did like that, but this was fun too. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. There's, you know, the big problem with this one, in my personal opinion, is that there's just um there's a lot of retreading ideas in here instead of trying to make your own ideas. And there's also just a lot of stuff that's like, okay, I guess this happens now, right? Bardock is just, I mean, like literally, it's a square peg in a round hole, right? They're just cramming Bardock into this story and just saying, you want to help your family because we said so, right? Also, Bardock's in heaven, which, okay. And then the other thing is, there's just like, we have to do this because this happened in Dragon Ball Z, right? Like we have to get the Z sword and we have to break the old Kai out and have him unlock people's potential even though Gohan's here. Present Gohan is there, right? Majin Buu is when he first emerges is no stronger than he was, right? And that's Fat Boo. That's the weakest Boo. Well, I guess innocent Boo, quote unquote, isn't the weakest Boo, but you get what I'm saying. Significantly weaker than Super Boo, all right? And we already have Ultimate Gohan here. We also have Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks and Super Saiyan 3 Goku, right? Like, I know it's not entirely exciting, but maybe we don't have to have somebody's potential get unlocked. And I do want to say real quick, um, it, what happens is cool, right? But like, I don't know, it's unnecessary. There's no reason to do it, right? part of what I wanted to see, because it was Future Trunks and a bunch of people who have already gone through the Boo saga, was I wanted to see this minus all the mistakes. You know what I mean? I almost said a different word, a 6-letter version of that, or 7 rather letter version of that that starts with an F, but without all the mistakes. Right? Like, just watch them come in and do it like it's an op, right? Like they're professionals, and just let it happen, clobber on Dabra a little bit, and then be like, all right, Trunks, get him, right? Just, I don't know, just let them have fun. Let it be different enough that it feels like it's worth Goku and his friends going through it. Not Goku and his friends go through the exact same thing, but we've shoehorned a lot of people into it. And I mean a lot. Again, I don't want to go too far into everything because it's relatively unique, albeit silly at some points. But it is unique. But some of the stuff, it's just like, really? Why is all of this here? How does, and then again, to its credit, some of the other stuff, it's like, okay, cool, this is more of what I meant. This is unique stuff. This makes sense. This didn't happen in this timeline, and because this didn't happen, this person would be here. Right? Some of that stuff makes sense. It's fun, but it's somewhat of a mixed bag, and that's unfortunate. Having set all of that aside, what was there in Shin Budokai has been improved. Gameplay wise, it's even more of a portable Budokai 3 than the last one was. There's a lot of cool stuff added in, new characters that add stuff. Unique takes on some of the older characters are added in too. I definitely recommend giving it a shot if you happen to have a PlayStation Portable somewhere, which, probably not in 2026. But yeah, and there's one more to talk about, which is this one's very strange. It is something that lives in the shadow of something else and is markedly better than that something else that it unfortunately has to be related to. So when you hear the two words Dragon Ball Evolution, right? The first thought that probably comes to your mind is like the Korath the Pursuer, who, right? But the other thing that might come to your mind is, oh yeah, that shitty live action Dragon Ball movie, right? Yeah. It's really, really, really awful. It just sucks. There's no two ways about it. If you haven't seen it, I mean, watch it because it's atrocious. If you need to get mad at something, you've got a lot of pent up frustration, you can watch that and maybe channel some of that rage into something. Um, if you're a fan of bad movies like I am, you can just watch it because you like bad movies. And I mean, this one sucks. Some of it, actually, a lot of it is just bad, though. It's not funny bad, it's just bad, bad. So it's hard for, you know, it's hard to get through some parts of it, but other parts of it are actually bad funny, But all of that is irrelevant because what we are talking about is its game adaptation on the PSP. The Budokai team, crazy enough, I can't believe there is no way they thought this was good. Not what they were making, but the movie. There's no way they thought it was going to be good. But anyway, they were tasked with adapting it and turning it into a fighting game of some sort, right? So they got on that and they did it. And surprisingly, this is something of a sleeper. It's a surprise hit. It's good. I'm not gonna sit around and pretend it's the greatest thing to ever grace the PlayStation Portable or any other Dragon Ball fighting game for that matter. It's no Fighters. It's no Budokai 3. It's not even BT3 or Sparking Zero, but it is surprisingly well made. It does one of those, like, they Street Fighter the movie, the characters, Street Fighter the movie, the game, the characters, and then made models out of it. It looks like something along those lines, and they're certainly unique. But the game itself is surprisingly solid. There's a lot of fun stuff to it. It's a pity that it has to use its source material for its roster, because you don't get many characters. I think this is the only Budokai game where an Ozaru is playable, and unfortunately it's that one. And King Piccolo, for that matter. But yeah, if it had a better source for what it was, a better pool to draw from, I think it would actually be a success. I think it would have done a lot better if Dragon Ball Evolution had a better concept in general. But if you're looking for a Dragon Ball game, quote unquote, both in the sense of the franchise and in the very original one of the parts of the story, game, then perhaps, just give it a shot. If you're able to look past all of the horrors that is Dragon Ball Evolution, the film, and just play the game, I think you might have a good time. Just if you haven't seen Evolution, don't expect anything from the franchise itself. You're not going to get it. It's it's certainly something. So when I made that slide, I talked about the characters and the rosters. I think who might be in order, what sort of people should be included versus shouldn't, in the overall roster for the game might be good for my explanation. I don't necessarily predict that this would be who they would go with, but just with the spitballing, this is kind of what I envisioned. Sort of explanation was in order. So again, like I said, I really want an emphasis on the beginning of the franchise. Like I said, kid versions or Dragon Ball versions of characters would be nice. I don't know. 10 of the 50 for Dragon Ball / Dragon Ball Z, I think, is fair. And then we get 5 for the Saiyan arc, 10 for Frieza. Yeah, right. Because then we've got 25. Yeah. 10 for the androids, 10 for Boo, and no, 10 for the androids. 10's a little much for the androids, isn't it? Oh. Yeah, okay. Let's do 6 for the androids, 6 for the Boo arc. So we've got another 12 added, and we're at 37. And we do 7 from the movies, and we do 6 from specials and filler, stuff like that. Right? We got a solid 50 there. For Super, with 30 people, we get a Goku, we get a Vegeta, we get a Frieza, Beerus, Whis, the Universe 6 people, the main people, hit the Saiyans, Frost, Champa. I think that's fair. Black, Zamasu, Pelos, from the Black arc. Trunks, of course. We get a Trunks from that arc. A few, well, yeah, but they'd be a skill, right? They'd be a fusion character. They wouldn't be a separate person. So no fuse Zamasu. Yeah, I mean, I guess that'd be it really from there. And then I would say the three major Pride troopers, Topo, Hit and Jiren, or Topo, Dispo and Jiren, not Hit. You know, you get Caulifla and Kale, of course. I don't know, yeah, I'd add Enzila, sure, why not? I'd like to add, me personally, I'm going to throw them in. I'd like to add Salnel and Prina, the Namekians. I think that's their names. They'd be fun additions, right? The point that I'm making is I think it's easy to get to that point. 15 GT, right? Was it 15 or was it 10? Um, Either way, you get Goku, you get Vegeta, you get Trunks. I'm adding Goten. Why hasn't GT Goten been in anything? Add GT Goten, Rildo, Baby, Super 17, Hellfighter 17. You can add Mew. We have Jiro. Why not? Um, I would add Nova, Ice, Sin, um, Haze. Yeah. Um, I don't remember which one was that. Was that Naturon? Is that the one that stole Pan and then tried to take Goku's energy? I'd add that one. That one was fun. Of course, Sin, Shenron. Um, for fun, why not? They're not in anything else. Add Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr. Why not, right? Point is, I haven't completed the roster, but I've done enough that I think you get where I'm coming from. It's not hard to get to those numbers, and to add their transformations would be even easier because you've already got the character down, right? So, but I did think that was needed just to kind of show people where I was going with that stuff. So, there you go. So, having talked about all of those, at least, somewhat briefly, um, I wanted to, just kind of spitball for a second and say, hey, if somebody out there really wanted to make another one of these, what would they do with another one of these? How would they handle another one of these if they were given the opportunity? So here's here's my general thoughts on what I think would be a fun idea for that. I would like to see an adaptation that does everything and anything. Obviously, would be optimal, but at the very least has GT and Super up to the Tournament of Power in it. Daima would be fun too. I would like to see that, but I would love to see a return to that world map system that we got with Budokai 3. I'm sure many other people feel that way, where we can explore the world in a similar manner. Maybe we could recruit other characters to come along with us. Maybe they have skills that they can use to help you while you're on the map identify certain things. Maybe some of the more uh I was gonna say capricious, but I'm not gonna talk like a robot. One of the more uh greedy characters um came in with you, or somebody who just kind of has an eye for money came with you and was able to notice the Zenny on the map better. You had somebody like Bulma, or somebody like Hit, who works for money all the time, who just notices that stuff. Um, Maybe you get, the more in tune with nature characters can help you find um, different characters that are lost or hidden in the world map, or something along those lines. I don't know. Point is, we can expand the world map system without completely and totally losing focus on what it's doing. you know um we could add new environments. Maybe there's free travel at some points between some of the maps, and you could encounter different characters those different maps at different times. Like for example, if you're doing the super arc, you could go to Beerus's planet, you could go to Earth, you could go to wherever the stupid copy Vegeta was. You could go to um, New Namek. You could go to granola cereal, right? Things, places like that, and maybe even Universe 6. Go to some places there. Go to the Tournament of Power arena and check things out there. But you could leave those areas even during the story and go to other maps. And while you're there, maybe you run into a different character who's doing something, right? Maybe when you're in the Goku Black arc, if you leave Future Earth and you go check some of the future versions of those places out, maybe there are different characters there doing different things since Future Beerus has been dead for so long. I don't know. Again, I'm spitballing. I'm not. This isn't a concrete pitch, just ideas, right? Um, I would love to see a healthy roster for every single one of the major arcs. Me personally, I'd like to go all the way back to original Dragon Ball and have characters and stories for all of that. I'd love to see like a Kid Krillin and Yamcha and TN Dragon Ball, especially since TN in particular uses like so many different one-off attacks in Dragon Ball that he never does again. That would be incredibly useful. Like the Kamehameha nullification that you did there, that would have been cool. So I think stuff like that would be fun. But even if you just want to start at Z and go up to Super and GT from there, I don't think. I don't know about GT. GT would have the smallest amount at that point. Z would probably have the largest, and then Super the second, right? And it would be like, I don't know. Me personally, I think it's easy not doing sparking zeros, uh, transformations count as separate characters nonsense. I think it's still easy to do like 50 from Z, 35 from Super, and 15 to 20 from GT. Probably 15, right? And just give us 100 characters even. I think that's pretty easy to do. There's a lot of choices. You can do movies, you can do specials, you can draw from the future of stuff now that we've got Moro coming, right? Maybe not do all of Moro, but maybe you add some characters in there to tease it, right? Um, I think that's easy to do. And then of course their transformations, but with Budokai, that doesn't affect things quite as much as it does with, say, Xenoverse or Sparking Zero and Fighters. Well, I guess it's more similar to Fighters in some ways, and I guess most similar to Xenoverse, which makes sense. But yeah, point is, it wouldn't affect things as much. And I think that's a pretty simple goal to do. And then I do think it would be fun to continue with that mode that General Red hosts. I can't remember the name of it. I'll put the picture of it up either here or on the Budokai 3 slide. I'm recording the audio before I write this time because I have the house to myself right now, and this is just the easiest time to record the audio, whereas I can type my stuff up later. So I apologize. This is a little more scatterbrained than other ones normally are, but I gotta take the time when I have it. So I do really sincerely think that a one of that mode by General Rev where you can take any of the characters and you can add them would be just buff them up, change up their stats in whatever way you want. I think that would be really cool too. Maybe you do add some characters exclusive to that again. If you want to do what Budokai 3 did with the password created costumes, that changed characters, that's pretty cool too. But I would say that, like, maybe make those a little more known ahead of time. That King Piccolo one was really cool. I guess it's technically his first playable appearance in Budokai, but I don't know. He's not unique in that, you know what I mean? He just borrows his son's moves. But yeah, I know this is very grandiose and like will never happen in any way, shape, or form, but I would like to see something like this from Dimps again. I think that the world's due for another 2D Dragon Ball fighting game, and I think that this is the perfect time to do that, especially with Xenoverse 3 coming in as hot as it is. People are really looking forward to it, right? Maybe give us a little tease, while we wait. Just, hey, here's a little something else to whet the appetite, change the pace a bit too. Maybe it does well and you're able to get another one going. Um, oh yeah, of course there would have to be an online versus mode. I can't believe I didn't even mention there would have to be some sort of ranked mode where people can compete. In an ideal world, I wouldn't want them to add any sort of like season pass or something like that. But here we are. I'm sure they'd find some way to do that. Um, but I do think that would be a great idea. But absolutely, keep the teleportation system that they used from those games in place. Find new ways if you can to expand on that with techniques or something. It'd be cool to be able to like you see Ultra Instinct Goku doing with Kefla and a couple of other people, to be able to dodge and perform the technique, your counter technique, while they are throwing a punch, right? You can execute a special while you are dodging because they came in to and left themselves open when you had enough ki to dodge, right? There, and again, it could work both ways, right? Where maybe the other character sees where they made that mistake, they have more ki than you do, and they are able to block that as well, or at least interfere in some way. Um, but something that just adds a little bit more to those interactions, where you have that instantaneous movement interaction between the characters. I do think that could be fleshed out a little bit. Although, again, uh, how exactly is a question in and of itself. I do also think it would be fun if you found a way to allow characters to de-transform more easily than they could in the base games, where they could only, like, basically you transformed and then you got knocked out of it by your opponent, which that's really cool. Please keep that in. But if they want to be weaker, after transforming, like maybe they're fighting, you've got a survival match going on and you've got more than one character added. They could add that, by the way, if you want to add a survival mode, that'd be fun. And you're going against a much weaker character, a character from an earlier point in the series, since these games scale based on what character you are. So you want to de-transform because your attacks are just fine in your base form and you don't consume as much energy. I think that would be a fun thing to add to it as well. Maybe, I don't know, because I don't want it to be annoying like an alarm clock or something, but maybe some sort of audio indicator that the ki has depleted or is going to deplete. Very brief though. Again, not some sort of alarm like, but like, I don't know, something subtle. I think might be a good idea too, because it's easy to not realize that you're out if you're really caught up in the movement of some of those games. So I do think that might help too. But other than that, what do you guys think? Do you guys have any ideas? Please let me know. Yeah, with that being said, that's going to do it. Thanks very much for your time. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Let your family know that you love them. Stay safe out there. It's a really crazy time. We all need to be safe. Um, I'm gonna see y'all on the next one. Very quickly before I go, I have to do this at the end of everything. I don't own Dragon Ball. I don't own Dimps. I don't own Shueisha. I don't own Toei. I don't own the Shonen Jump. I don't own Capsule Corporation. I'm doing this for fun. It's satirical. It fits under fair use because it's transformative. I am not in any way trying to take ownership of those properties. They belong to all of their respective owners. Anyway, thanks very much for your time. Have a great night.